Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tiger Talk here at Riverbend Lodge. Sorry we're a little bit late getting on the air, but it's amazing what some duct tape will do. We've improvised, and I'm here today with Bill Sack and Joey Landreth, and of course, our interview segment with Coach Dan Essenberger. Coach, last night a good performance at times. I thought we played hard, whistle to whistle. What were your thoughts?
Well, we played real hard. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, we have been doing that, here lately. And, we were talking before the game, even in practice, that we have improved so much. And it's a shame that we have nothing to really show for it because you don't usually when you improve a lot, you get some W's. But, our schedule's so tough that hadn't happened. But, no, we went over to a place, Murphy leading the conference and, coming off a big win against Swain and in the mud hole. And, I mean, it was mud. Which, we told them anything can happen in the mud. You just don't know. And we played very, very well. Halftime should have been 0-0. But a mistake here or there can snowball you. And then the worst thing that could possibly happen to us, it quit raining. If it would have kept raining, it would have kept helping us. But, we knew, and, all year it's been that way. Anytime anybody gets out in space on us, we're in trouble because we just don't have any speed. And once they popped the buck sweep a couple times, they hit 3 times, same exact place, and it was off to the races.
Well, speaking of the weather, I've thought for years that the weather favors the slower, smaller team, and I thought last night proved true. I don't think I've ever seen a football game where conditions improved at halftime, weather conditions, field conditions.
Well, and along with that, too, I think, Coach Gentry a little bit impatient. He knew he was supposed to win. He's supposed to win big. And
right.
He came out trying to run his normal stuff, and where they mix in the pass and all that, and it was a mud.
Yeah.
And I was proud of our kids in the fact that we kind of did last night what you have to do against a better football team, and that's try to keep the football away from them. Be satisfied with your 3 yards, 4 yards. Try to keep it away, run the clock down. Defensively, we played, unbelievable early. And then it's like they found, okay, this is what's going to get them. And wing tee, that buck sweep, fullback trap, that's their bread and butter, and that's what they started doing. And like I said, once they get to the second level on us, we have a tough time. And, if Brendan doesn't come up and make a tackle near the line of scrimmage, then they're gone. And it's been the same old thing all year. There's no way to fix it other than be faster and stronger and bigger, and where you can't do that.
Right,
while the season going on.
Well, and we've talked about that all year, and the times I've been here, I actually am enjoying the opportunity to be here today because I'm not at work. So, but anyway, the times we've talked about that, I think now there's some tangible things going on that I've seen on Twitter and stuff where we're getting a before school and after school conditioning program going on that wasn't in place before. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think, maybe it takes living through it and explaining it to them, and then them playing the type football where that shows that it's like, okay, if we want to be good, we got to get to work. There's not been any work going on. I mean, our devotion before the game, we stopped at a church in Hayesville, and their pastor there, son actually was a quarterback for Murphy. But he was talking, and the one thing he said is, boys, if you ain't in the weight room, now we didn't tell him that.
Right.
He says you're backing up because, it used to be way back that the great programs were the only ones in the weight room, and everybody else just competed. Well, that's 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Now if you're doing it, everybody's doing it. So you got to go above and beyond that. And it doesn't happen in a year. Usually, you got 2-3 years for that to pan in and start seeing the results of it. I mean, I look at some of our kids. Thomas Collins, prime example. If Thomas Collins would have lived in the weight room for 4 years and him a senior, Thomas Collins would be 20 pounds heavier, and he'd be running a 4.340. Now, when you're doing that and you're 185 pounds instead of 150 pounds,
right?
And he's a 4.5. Well, that makes a big difference,
right?
That's just one of them, and because he hadn't been in the weight room, you can tell. I I mean, we're playing with just what the good Lord gave us, and you know, for football anymore, for the most part, that's not enough. You got to get in there and enhance and make better what the good Lord gave us, and by pushing the weights around and so on. And I'm glad, you know, they had 20-some kids there the other morning. A lot of them middle school kids, and that's fine. That's where it starts. You know, if they get a fire for it, because the weight room, it's addicting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you're sore when you first start doing it, so a lot of people quit doing it. And, you know, they go, well, I'll wait till the soreness goes away. Well, you're not doing anything then. But once you get to the point where they see a difference, and they look in the mirror and it's like, dang, I got some definition, it's addicting. Then it's like, I can't miss my workout. And
Right.
that's what we need to get them to feel like.
And what do you do to, other than just playing, what do you do to overcome some of the inexperience that we have? Is there a football 101 class, or is there something to help us?
You just go out and work on your fundamentals, and that, you know, that's the bad part. See, we'll do everything fundamentally correct and lose.
Right.
You know, I mean, do everything right.
Right.
And just lose because that guy in front of us is 40 pounds heavier and a whole lot stronger. I mean, it's the strength more than the size. You can win with some smaller linemen, but that strength factor, and it gives you a confidence factor too.
Right.
You know, but you know, when our linemen are benching 185 and they're benching 350,
Right.
There's a big difference there.
He feels more superior over you anyway.
Oh, sure he does.
Yeah.
He just knows he can mash
He
you, you know, and that's, you know, like I said, that's an inherited problem. It's a problem that through time has evolved to that, and you know, and sometimes you can get kind of. I mean, I know my years at Brevard. I had a year that you know, we were really good. And we lifted hard in the weight room, and then the next year we lifted again hard, and we were really good again. And I had one down year. And when I look back, you know, it's kind of like watching your kids grow up. You see them every day, you don't notice they're growing. And so we've been lifting, but not at the same rate we did 4 years prior.
Right.
And so we readjusted, and we lived in the weight room. You know, we picked the intensity up. It wasn't that any of those years, they were just a little bit off from the years before, and you didn't notice it during that time frame. And, I mean, you got to work hard. I mean, it's a year-round thing, and it's not just for football. It's for any sport.
Right.
You know, and at Rosman, you know, our kids got to play everything if we're going to be good at anything. And so it's something that you just do. I know Coach Blankenship told me, you know, we played Swain, you know, they lifted the day they got on the bus to come play us. Well, they got on the bus, the whole team went in there and had a workout in the weight room. You know, that's game day, you know, so you can't say it doesn't work.
Well, the third thing, and you alluded to it there in your comments, third thing I was going to ask is, I agree with you wholeheartedly, being a Rosman fan my entire life. We have a lot of kids that don't play sports, and I think, you know, in a school the size of Rosman, you miss one or two athletes, it changes the entire complexion of your team. Is there anything to do to recruit, to get those kids in the halls, pull them into your program?
When you know, number one, you got to do a lot of talking, and you know, spring practice is a prime example. I mean, this past year spring practice, we had a whole bunch of kids out there, and our trainer kind of squashed it, you know, and because he said, well, they don't have physical, they can't go out there, and you know, it's an ongoing, which I know it's not that way everywhere. I mean, when you're trying to take somebody who's never played and trying to get them excited about playing, you know, they got to get that niche about them. And there is some kids walking the halls that ought to be playing. But then again, success breeds people coming out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's an ongoing thing. I mean, if you're good, then everybody wants to play. You know, if you're not, then it's like, well, I don't want to play. And you know, they got to be willing to pay the sacrifice to play.
Right.
Which that's an individual thing, and they got to make that call.
Understand there is a sacrifice attached to it also.
Oh, sure it is, and you know,
This is not it's a game, but it's not a game, and they got to put themselves into it.
and they got to learn too. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, most of these kids, they play high school football, and that's the last time they're going to play it. But you learn so much in high school sports about life, and that's what they're missing too. Not just the playing while they're here, and I mean, every sport does it, but football, it to me, and I've coached them all. I've coached all kinds of sports through my years, but football, it just elevates it all. You know, in basketball and in baseball, you know, if you have a down night, the next day you might be playing. So you get over the successes and the failures are short-lived. In football, you got to go a whole week. You got to live with that failure or that excitement of a win or whatever. You get a week to enjoy it, and then it's on to the next one. So much of football practice is not fun. Right. To be good, you have to do certain things, and it's not all fun. You know, in basketball, you got a ball in your hand most of the time. You're driven around the gym. You know, other than conditioning, that's fun. Baseball, you're hitting the ball, you're catching the ball.
Right.
You know, so with football, ain't nobody likes getting on the sled, but you got to do it if you're going to be good.
Right.
You know, and those are the type things that it just you learn life's lessons because when they grow up and they get a job, you always have a boss. And you always got to do some things that you really don't want to do.
Right.
But that's life.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I mean, even if you're your own boss, that's the worst one sometimes. You know, I've known a lot of people, they're their own boss. They own the business, whatever. They can't even take a vacation because if they do, it's like they're messing themselves up. You know? So,
Being there, it's a different kind of discipline.
Yeah.
You're working for yourself. You got to discipline yourself.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Sure it is.
I've been there.
Sure it is. You
I've
know,
been
so a
there,
lot
so-
of people they don't want to do that. They want to work for somebody else. So they can
Right.
go home and leave it.
It's a little different when you put the key in the door and you got to pay the bills. Having somebody else pay the bills, trust me.
And I have,
You know, in life, that's just life.
Right,
You
right.
know?
and I have to agree with you that when I joined the Army, I thought, you know, this is going to be something that I've never experienced before. Wasn't really any worse than a Coach Fox practice, but I was glad I went through one of those. You know what I'm saying? Through 3 seasons of that, because then I understood the discipline, the mental part of what it took to make it through basic training. And I think you're right, Coach. I think that's the thing kids are missing, and I don't know how you get that message to kids that, you know, what you learn here is going to pay off 20 years down the road.
And you know, and you tell them, and you know, a lot of them they don't believe you, and then years later they'll come back and say, "I get it now."
Right.
You know, they get in life and they get it.
I'm glad I went through that. I
Yep.
learned something.
Yep.
Well, I'm optimistic about one thing here at Rosman. I think having younger coaches who are actually in the halls, I think, is going to pay off down the road as far as getting kids to play. You know, you got Coach Swearingen and Coach Cook, Coach Allen that are in the halls every day.
And you got Coach Robinson too, and that's part of it. I mean, if you got them there, they all have to recruit.
Right.
You know, and it's just a matter of coming out. Hey, see if you like it. You know, I know we got some kids. I know they'd like it if they got out there, but they got to be willing to get off the sofa.
Yeah.
You know, go home after school and sit on the sofa and you know and play their PlayStation or whatever it is. You know, till 6 or 7, and if they have homework, do it. And they don't even have that much homework anymore, and then go on to bed. You know, these people say, "Well, my grades are suffering. I gotta quit playing because I gotta go home." Well, they're not gonna go home and study for an extra 2.5 hours.
No.
That's giving up football practice. They're just not gonna do it.
No, they're not.
And you know, I've always told them all along, you know, when your grades suffer, there's 2 ways you go about it. Either you're stupid, which they're not, or they're lazy. And when you're lazy, that runs into everything.
Right.
And a lot of them don't play because they're lazy.
Right.
Got anything, Bill?
I'm scared to say.
You never have been before. Go ahead.
Well, having a young coaching staff walking the halls, it's a young enthusiasm for the game, and these kids catch on to that. Right. You know, it's not like having a bunch of old guys like us, like Dan and I, walking the halls or something like that. You know, there comes old teachers or something like that. We would be old school, you know. And they'd probably run from us, but you know, you got Cook and Swearingen and Tyree and some of them guys. You know, they're young. They're still they're not that far removed from the game, where these kids can still relate to the game, to these guys. So that's the future right here.
Right.
And we look back at what maybe say and use Bavard for an example. They got a young coaching staff, and these kids relate to those guys. So I think that's a good future too for as a formula for Remy Rosman down the line somewhere.
You know, the biggest thing with recruiting is when you get, and I've done it all along, is not every player likes every coach.
Right.
So what you do is you let the coach that they have good rapport with recruit them.
Right.
Through my years, I had some players, most of them that I had a really good rapport with. But there's a few of them through the years that just didn't care much for me. Well, that's okay. I let the other coach go talk to them, get them out. That's just the way it goes. And time will fix it. That's all it is. It's time and commitment. You get those things going, and it'll be a slow move, but it's going in the right direction. There's no doubt about that. We've righted the ship. Now we just need to keep it going.
Well, something I think you said a few minutes ago that's really important is that it's really hard to tell sometimes the improvements we've made unless you're there every week, unless you're watching, unless you're at practices. It's really hard to see it because the conference we play in is just so tough. The out of conference schedule was tough. You're playing quality teams every week, and it's hard to see those adjustments, or those improvements. But I feel like they're there. I've watched the game. I've watched Rosman every week. I feel like that. Last night I think we were defensively we were where we were supposed to be for most of the ball game. As you said earlier, we don't have a lot of team speed, so if we're 6 feet out of position, that's a touchdown.
Sure.
And I think last night for the first 2 quarters, we were actually where we needed to be. And I thought I saw a big improvement last night. As you said, I was hoping that anything could happen in the mud.
I know, and it did for a while. It did, and it just, and it's hard to do that for 4 quarters when you're undermanned.
Right.
And, that's why you don't see a lot of upsets. But, everybody looks at the professional level and those are all professional athletes.
Right.
They're all good.
Right.
So, when you go down to the other, it makes it tough. And another thing with dealing with these kids, you can't lie to them.
Right.
You can't bull crap them. It's not going to happen.
Right.
You got to be straightforward and honest with them. And I've told our kids all along. Sometimes they don't like what I have to say, and I say, guys, I ain't lying to you. I'm gonna tell you the truth. And,
Right.
truth hurts sometimes,
Right.
but you're gonna hear the truth. And with that, you get a little respect out of them and all that, and it goes from there. They don't have to like you; they just have to respect you.
Right.
You know what you're talking about.
Well, let's talk just briefly about next week's opponent. Hayesville's a much improved football team from last year. They've had a change in coaching, they've had a change in a little bit of personnel, and they seem to be really improved over last year.
Yeah, we watched them against, I don't remember who they're, one of our films, so we've seen them before. They're going to run the spread. They're going to do a lot like what Cherokee did. And once again, we're going to have to keep them bottled up, which we did against Cherokee. And once again, once we have a little breakdown, and it's a big breakdown.
Right.
There is no little breakdown for us.
Right.
When you can run back there, then a breakdown can be a small breakdown. With us, it's all big breakdowns. So, once again, we got to go in. We've not had a game where when we lined up to play, they didn't do exactly what we thought they were going to do.
Right.
So, offensively and defensively. So that's not going to be an issue. We'll get in there Sunday and get to work, and we'll have a good game plan. And, it's a matter of whether we can go out and execute it. Looks like, it's raining now, and field's going to get tore up pretty good today. We'll try to get in there on Monday and fix it back, and then they're calling for some rain later in the week, so we might be playing another mud game. So we'll just have to see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, Coach, we appreciate your time as always, and thanks for spending a little bit of time with us. And we always enjoy hearing your thoughts and comments. And sometimes, like you said, sometimes it's just the truth.
That's exactly right.
Thank you,
so
Coach.
much.
All right. All right. Bill, grab that microphone, and we'll all slide over a little bit here and get everybody in the picture. Sorry for that little jump in production there. This is live TV. Anyway, guys, thoughts on Coach Essenberg's thoughts? Anything?
I agree with what he said. The boys that are playing right now are laying the foundation for the future. And like we commented last night several times in the press box, or calling the ball game, this coming Friday night when we play Hayesville, those young men need a full stadium out there, cheering them on, and because they're working hard, they're staying, like Matt said last night, it's hard to get beat some weeks like we have, but come Monday morning, the boys are right back there playing and practicing, and I'm proud of them. I thought they did well last night. Like Coach Essenberg said, a few breakdowns here become big breakdowns, and I see improvement every week.
Editorially, I'd like to say that I was a little disappointed by the turnout last night. It was a bad night and it was bad weather, but these kids, they work hard every week.
Yeah.
They play hard every week. And it's kind of distressing that we don't get more folks out to watch ball games than we do. So I'd like to see the house full on Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
It's the last home game, and I think that we should come out and support them. And I plan on being there, but then again, calling a game on the radio, of course I'm going to be there. But
Right.
I would hope that folks would take time to come out and cheer these kids on. We certainly do that when we're winning here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
It's got to be both ways. There'll be a fair weather fan.
Right, I don't want to
Yeah.
be tagged as fair weather fans, so I'd like to see folks come out on Friday night. So that's free editorial. I won't charge you for that.
And a senior night on top of that, so there ought to be a good crowd there for senior night anyway. 'Cause
Well, you should.
all
You'll
your
probably
fall
have a lot of
sports.
people there to see the seniors come out.
Right.
It usually has that effect.
So, Joey, I see you got your phone over there.
Oh, yeah.
You're either watching YouTube or got the scores for
I'm
you.
afraid it will crack our phone if I watch us, too
All
long.
right. Yeah, don't do that.
One of the games on our pick 4 last night was Pisgah and Hendersonville. Pisgah won that one 27-24.
Anybody surprised by that? I kind of thought Pisgah could handle them.
Yeah, I did too. I thought it'd probably be like 27-14, something like that. I think Hendersonville. I know it was at Hendersonville, but I was surprised by that a little bit. And then the next one was Smoky Mountain at Brevard, and I think we all were surprised.
Yeah, we all
Excuse me.
picked. we all picked.
Joey called the Brevard win, but I don't think he even would have thought it would have been a 24-6.
No, I didn't think it'd be 24-6. I thought more like 24-21. Of course, don't know if the weather played a part in that with the sloppy conditions.
Well, it's like Coach Essenberg was talking to us off camera. He said Smoky Mountain's big up front, and so's Brevard.
Well,
it's
now,
fast. Mm-hmm.
there would be sloppy conditions in Brevard because
No.
they have artificial turf.
Yeah, but
But Brevard,
the ball being slick
ball
could
being
be slick.
may have some factor, but Brevard's good. I mean, Brevard's solid up front. They're quick up front. They got good skill position players.
They do that.
Now, I'll tell you honestly, I thought Smoky Mountain was going to win that ball game, but Brevard came up, showed up to play, and they did.
Mhm.
Big
It-
win for them.
And then the next one was Tuscola at West Henderson, and that was probably I think for all of us, that was the upset of the night, 24-21. I know it went into one overtime. I don't know if it went into two or not. But Tuscola come out on that one, 24-21.
Well, was that at which field were they
That
playing?
was at West Henderson.
See, there you go. They have artificial turf
Right.
too. That didn't have any
Right.
right. game.
Yeah, there's not a lot of grass fields left
Yeah.
like we saw last night.
Right.
Hmm. And then, so that was, if I'm correct, that's West Henderson's first loss of the year.
That's correct.
And then Cherokee was at Hayesville, and Hayesville just
Well, it's
killed Cherokee.
49-27, but
Mm-hmm.
those were a couple of garbage touchdowns late. I mean, it was a 49-7 game at one point.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then let's see. Let me scroll through. I get a bunch of scores. AC Reynolds killed North Buncombe 54-6 last night.
Yeah. Not really surprised by that.
Mm-mm.
Reynolds came out of the gates a little bit slow, but they're always a good program. That's,
Probably one we talked about coming back last night. Was a little bit of a surprise was Mountain Heritage 22-15 over at Owen, and you figured seeing Owen play all year.
was that at if that's
It was
at
at Heritage.
That's a grass field. That would have been a ball game where the weather was a factor.
Yep. And then I think, let me scroll down through here. Like I said, I get a bunch of scores. Polk County beat Avery 35-28 last night.
Not a surprise.
Not a surprise there either. The Franklin got their first win last night, 27-0 over East Henderson, which
That would
East is
really
down.
be a good surprise because, from what I understand, Franklin is probably the better than the record is indicating.
They're probably as good as any 1-7 team around. They played Brevard pretty close.
Well, they said I talked to my counterpart that does the stats for Brevard last week, and she said that Brevard had a hard time putting them away.
Right.
I mean, even though it wasn't a close game, Brevard just had a hard time with them. So.
And then Irwin beat Inca 28-7 last night. Also, then TC Henderson, they beat North 44-14 last night.
Wow.
And North's just having a rough time.
And there's Mitchell 69-0
Nothing
over
over Madison. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
No, Madison's having a hard.
Yeah,
yeah,
Madison's
Madison's
struggling. Madison.
hard time. I think that's probably going to be about all I have in North Carolina because everything else is all out South
Well,
Carolina.
let's drill down a little bit on the Tigers last night. Bill's got some stats over there.
Yeah, I got a few stats there, and it's not really that bad. I mean, we've had certainly had a whole lot worse, and considering a team like Murphy that we played with, we're going to run it down here. Let's look at Rosman real quick here. On the passing department, they attempted 4 passes, completed 2 of those for 15 yards, and in rushing, they had 42 rushes for 121 yards, which was probably double what we talked about. We thought they were going to get.
Right.
Fumbled twice, which was really low for a game like last night with a lot of mud. Usually you see a lot of fumbles in that game, but didn't see it. 1 interception. No returns on that, so that really didn't hurt us. They didn't score against us in that drive. And then number 3, Thomas Collins, rushed for 68 yards on a touchdown, for the lone touchdown for Bavard. And, of course, the punt after attempt didn't materialize. I'm not sure what happened there. Looked like a jailbreak there towards the end.
Well, I think the weather played a factor in a couple of plays that were, the interception that Murphy threw.
Yeah.
The kid didn't have his hand around the football. I mean, he just terribly underthrew it. And I watched him last week against Swain. He's got a good arm. He's got a live arm. That was just a bad throw. It had to be weather related. The other one was the punt we attempted when the punter either slipped, bobbled the football, something, and we just didn't get the punt off.
Yeah, I think that punt went about 4 yards.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We had a collective groan here because I had coaches and 2 coaches beside me when I was doing the stats, and they said, "Oh, what's going on here?" And a few other words went along with that, but we'll not say those.
Right.
But let's go back and look at Murphy now. Murphy attempted to pass 3 times, and they didn't complete any of them, so that helped us a lot. Rushing, we outrushed them as far as the attempts of rushing. 27 of those for 442 yards, but they ripped off a lot of big yardage there.
Mm-hmm.
They fumbled twice. We collected those twice. They intercepted once. They had scoring drives, 5 of them. Their scoring came on breakdowns on defense for us.
Right.
We did not spread out on the line. You could see it coming off the left side. They had those double reverses, and on the inside they come down the left side and run. Dan alluded to that about happened. We didn't spread out, didn't cover it. They had runs of 36, 52, 71, 57, 42, and that's what happened. They run them off big like that. We didn't cover. And, and then, in fact, our defense came up to shine. They only had 10 plays in the first half.
Devontae Edwards, the kid from Murphy that scored, this is a really unofficial statistic. You could probably drill down and find it, but I think on his 4 touchdown runs, just those 4 runs,
That number 28.
he had 200 yards.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't cover him, but I would say he had a 36, 52, 57, and 42 yards.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right about.
All right, we may still be alive. We don't know.
Yeah.
Matt, if you're watching, text us and let us know. But
Yeah.
otherwise, we'll keep talking and pretend like we know what we're doing. Is there any way of telling that? Corey said he thinks the live stream may be down. He's going to check it out. We'll keep talking anyway. So,
But anyway, that's where we're at. Like I said, they only had 10 plays in the first half, and we outplayed them in the first half very easily. Just 2 breakdowns on it, and they scored twice. It was 15-0 at halftime.
right.
So, could have been easily 0-0.
Yeah. And I mean, we had to win the time of possession the whole
Oh,
game.
awesome. Oh, yeah, there was no comparison in time.
Yeah.
of possession.
And of course, they just scored on the quick plays.
Well, I think Coach Essenberg was right. I mean, we're just not have not been in the weight room enough to stop a big play.
Right.
When we contained them to the middle of the field a couple of times, we set the edge and turned them back inside. We were really successful. But
Yep.
when they ran that buck sweep and
There's nothing we can do about the outside edge group. We're just not fast enough.
right, and
And you heard me say something to Dan, too, about these guys, the way they run. They're frailing their arms around like this. They're out of balance and stuff like that,
well, I think part of that
And I said something about Tyree Allen, and he's not teaching these boys how to run, and And there's the biggest part of the team runs the same way.
Well, I think the part of that I think, and that'll change. I think with young coaching that's going to be around for a while, I think we, mechanically,
That's exactly the word I was looking for. The mechanics of trying to run.
Being in the weight room,
Right.
that's being in a PE class where you do the conditioning drills and things like that. And it's no secret that's been a problem that I think with this after-school weight program, before-school weight program that we're addressing. And I think, once you get the kids in the weight room and you start building the conditioning, and you can start the karaoke drills, as we used to call them. We can start those things where you learn to mechanically run. You can do the pistons. You can do those things that teach you.
Well, I watch them during a couple times I've been able to get out to the practices. I don't see them doing sprints and things of that nature and running.
Well, I think
and I think they need to do that because it becomes a second nature to be able to run that way.
Right.
So,
So yeah, and I think when you look at as Coach Essenberg said, when you look at the league we play in, you can't afford a breakdown mentally. You can't afford a breakdown mechanically. You can't afford a breakdown physically, because every one of those you're going to pay for.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
Yeah, from top to bottom in our league. I mean, you can even say Hayesville, Andrews, and Cherokee.
Right.
And you have a breakdown against them, they're going to score or have a big play. And, as we was talking last night, as the conditions sort of changed, Devontae Murray for Murphy, whenever he ever got busted into the second level, even in the mud, he looked like he was running all by himself.
Right.
And I mean, you can just see the speed difference. And the boys are playing hard. And, of course, the weight room, like Coach Essenberg says, is going to be where the difference is made in the future. I think, again, like I said, the boys that are playing right now, they're going through this season, but they're laying the foundation for 3 to 4 years down the road. And it's just, the guys that are walking the hall, don't worry about what the record is right now. Come on out and play, because 3 to 4 years down the road, it may be completely different.
Well, I think the second thing that we really need to focus on at Rosman, and I said it when talking with Coach Essenberg, or I think I thought it anyway, if I didn't say it, is we need to get kids playing multiple sports.
Right.
Because you learn footwork in basketball that pays off in
Football.
You learn, hand-eye coordination in baseball pays off in basketball. We just need to keep kids involved in the program. And speaking of kids being involved in the program, 2 o'clock this afternoon, the Rosman Lady Tigers host Hayesville in a first-round matchup of the state volleyball playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Tigers, I think we're down a little bit last year, but they've rebounded. I think we're 14-9 on the year. Is that right?
Yeah,
something like
I
that.
believe that's right.
And we get a home volleyball game. I don't know if this is the only one or not, but certainly I'd like to see folks come out there and fill the place up Saturday this afternoon. Clemson doesn't play till 7, so no rush to get home.
Yeah, no rush to get home.
So.
Yeah. And I think Corey said the ladies are coming up to eat lunch here today with them before the match, and I've admitted it before on Saturday mornings. I'm not a big volleyball person. I don't understand how the game works. I do understand how it works, but it's changed so much over the years since I've seen volleyball. But yeah, come on out and support the ladies. I mean, this is their first round.
It's an exciting game to play. I played a lot of it. I played a lot of tournament play. In fact, I was a third member of a 3-man team, and we would actually play six-man teams, and we did very well. And it was a fast game. It's a good game.
Well, I think the thing is that, as I've said on this show, and I'll say again, my biggest complaint with volleyball is it takes 14 hours to warm up and 15 minutes to play the game. Yeah. Other than that, I love the action in volleyball, and I really enjoy watching the Tigers play. And I plan on being there today, unless I have the honeydew list or the honeydew trip. I don't know that that's planned. If not, I plan on being there to cheer the Tigers on. And I hope everybody else can get out. As I said, I don't know if this is the only home game we get or not.
Yeah, and Ashton Barton being back coaching, or
right.
That's probably not her last name, but we know it was Ashton Barton and back coaching. I know she's doing basketball. We're talking with Josh a couple of weeks ago, and so sports is, as we're heading into the fall, you got your basketball getting ready to kick up. I think he said their first game was pre-Thanksgiving, which is I don't remember ever having basketball before Thanksgiving.
Well, I think they play. I think practice can start November 1st, if I'm not mistaken, and and one of the things I'm really happy with, and I think in turning the program around, not only in football but in other places, is the homegrown talent. You're talking about Ashton. Ashton was certainly one of, if not the best, women's basketball player we've ever had in this school. She went on to play 4 years at UNCA. Started, I think, 3 of those 4, maybe all 4 years. Had a great career. She, of course, was part of that state championship volleyball team back in the early 2000s, and coaches that are with her were part of that team. So, kind of passing some of that tradition on. And I think that's real important. I think it's important for the kids to see local folks coming back who've been successful, who've been out and been successful, and I think that's huge in turning the program around.
Well, it tells you how good sports is here in Roswell.
Right.
It does.
And
Because they learn it here, and then they go out into the world and play at a higher level, and then they bring that back home.
right.
And in turn it back into the community.
And I think, if you look around it, I think we've talked about this on the morning show before. If you look at the level of coaches we have as far as what they've done, where they played, I think football, the overall program, we've got a lot of college athletes that have either come to this area or have come back to this area. And, I think that's going to pay off. Bill was talking about building enthusiasm in a program, and I think the young coaches are a building block there. And I think the older coaches who, as I said, have been out and come back, for a lot of folks, that's a real encouragement.
It is.
We're here at Riverbend Lodge. There's some folks here earlier eating breakfast. Smells pretty good. I might have to do that in a little while myself. But if you got a chance, come on out. We hope we'd fill this place up by the end of the season. So we've had our ups and down days, but today's kind of rainy and messy. Corey's over there watching us on TV. He's having to look at us, but
I was
Corey,
thinking he's probably looking at himself.
Corey, you got a minute to come talk to us about Riverbend? All right. Yeah, we'll just pass them around. Pass the mic. So, tell us what's going on here.
Well, this morning, actually, here in just a few minutes, we're going to host the volleyball team. They're going to come and eat a good. They're doing grilled chicken, baked potato, and salad before their game.
Cool.
So we're gonna get them prepped up for. I think it's what round is it?
It's the first round. It's first round of the playoffs, but
So hopefully we'll be able to send them off on a good start there, and then tonight we've got karaoke going on from 8 to midnight, and steak night special still going on. So
Is that a ribeye?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
ribeye and sirloin, baked potato side salad. Sirloin's 10, ribeye's 14. Then you can always add on shrimp or crab legs, and right now we've even got king crab. We've got smoked crab and king crab.
well, I probably wouldn't be the person to talk to about the weight room, but I can certainly talk to you about restaurants. And the food here is really good. I'd recommend anybody stopping by and trying the menu. The burgers are good. The appetizers are good. I hadn't found anything yet that wasn't good. So, you do a really good job out here, and I'd like to see this place filled up for you, for karaoke night. And I know there's some things that are karaoke night's really popular, isn't it?
Yeah. It has its ups and downs. So we like last night we didn't have a band, so at 9 o'clock we went ahead and crunk up karaoke because we've got the setup
Right.
here all the time that's ready.
Right.
And we don't want to have people coming in and not having anything to do and just sitting around. So
Right.
we'll find something to do.
Do you put it on the TVs here?
So we've got a small TV here that we set it up on,
Right.
and then if we've got a big enough crowd and people's getting into it pretty good, I can send it up to our big TV. It's a 65-inch.
Right.
So that's pretty fun whenever you can get the whole crowd in there. It makes it fun, and we have every, we've talked about it before. We've got different groups come in all the time. You've got,
Right.
sometimes we'll be singing country. Sometimes they'll take it a whole nother ball game.
Well,
Take it in far directions.
the other part of the business that doesn't get talked about a lot is the lodge.
Yeah.
How's that going, and what are some things that you're doing to modernize? I know this building has been a lodge forever. So what are you kind of doing to modernize that?
So we had to redo pretty much all the electrical in all the rooms because they had the old two-prong.
Right.
So now you've got to add the ground. Then we added flat screen TVs. Most of the rooms didn't even have TVs, so now they have flat screen TVs with 1,500 plus channels.
Right.
HBO, Stars, Cinemax, Showtime, Encore.
Right.
With my background, you better have a good TV.
Exactly.
And then we've got really good internet from Comporium. We got their fiber internet. So,
Right.
It's not like a normal motel. Whenever you go to connect to the internet, you disconnect from it immediately
Right.
because you can't even use it.
Right.
This internet, you're in the rooms, you're getting between 50 and 150 meg download speed.
Wow.
So, you can stream, you can do all that, and it's unlimited, so you don't have to worry about data caps or anything like that. So that works really good. The beds are memory foam mattresses from Ashley Furniture.
Right.
We've got 1,600 thread count sheets. We're redoing the shower units one at a time.
Right.
So, as we go, but they're in decent shape. We're not replacing them because we have to. We're replacing them because we want to
Right.
get that higher level of standard.
Well, are you? I know a lot of times in the winter, lodging businesses really suffer. Are you planning on being open all winter, doing any kind of promotions, special things for the lodge?
So wintertime is, we noticed it our first year. Wintertime actually picked up for the restaurant and the bar side. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to promote the rooms for locals to be able to come and promote responsible drinking.
Right.
If they're going to participate in that, I'd rather give a discounted rate to the rooms than to have somebody driving on the roads.
Right.
And then on top of that, we're going to do excursions up to Sapphire Valley for skiing.
Mhm.
So we're already pushing now for skiing for this winter. So we're going to provide lodging for them because they get slammed up there. They're fully booked out now.
Right.
So that's a good opportunity for us. Hey, we'll haul you up there and bring you back.
And we hadn't talked about this, but I'm certain this lodge is a great setting for having some sort of Valentine's Day special. So I'm sure you're thinking about that and working on that.
We had a huge Valentine's Day dinner. It was reservation only, and it was packed from the time we opened to the time we closed. And there was people coming in at closing. We didn't turn them away. We kept feeding as long as they kept coming. So, that was really good. That was actually the start of our steak night special. We just didn't know it then.
Right. Well, Corey, I know you got some folks over here that need your attention, and I know you're a busy guy. We appreciate you spending a few minutes with us.
Much.
We appreciate you
Thank you for
letting us be out here on Saturdays and talking about the Tigers. Well, guys, what time is it, Joey? How long?
It's 9:59.
Wow. 9:59. We got on a little late, but we can get off at quitting time.
We can.
So until next week, thanks for joining us, and God bless the Tiger Nation. Good day.